Shannon Waller here, and welcome to the Team Success Podcast. We've been talking about the extraordinary coach culture, which I really appreciate when Dan Sullivan and Bab Smith put this together, because it really is the definitive set of, as Dan says, motivating values that inspire everything that we do. So today we're going to jump in to our value number 3, which we call D.O.S. Now, you may be wondering what the heck D.O.S is. It does not stand for any kind of operating system. What it does stand for is dangers, opportunities, and strengths. And this really is at the core of everything that our company strategic coach does. And let me define this, because I think this really could be incredibly valuable for your company. I like it because I think it keeps us safe. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. So, for example, we are always paying attention to what are the biggest dangers our clients are experiencing. So a danger is anything that you're worried about. And all of these are emotionally based terms. A danger is something that you are afraid of. It's something that you're worried about, something that wakes you up at 3 a.m. And by the way, every single human has a D.O.S at any given time. And you want to think about your company and its value creation is based on really taking care of your clients' biggest dangers, opportunities, and strengths. So the emotion that goes along with dangers is fear. What are you worried about? We call them the 3 a.m. issues. And it's also fear of loss. And if you think about what is possible to lose in anyone's life, here's a sample list, but you could add a lot of different things to it. You have loss of life, that would be the most extreme. Loss of money, loss of reputation, loss of family, loss of friends, loss of skills, loss of capability, loss of team, loss of reputation is a big one. There's a lot of things we stand to lose. And those are all big things, but they kind of play out in daily life in much smaller ways, but no less impactful in my assessment. So dangers is something it's really important to know deeply about your clients. And what's really fabulous about this idea, having this as a value, is it means we're always paying attention to what our clients' actual dangers, opportunities, and strengths are versus what we think they are. And when we start thinking we know, or we think it's starting to address their issues as though they're true and we haven't checked that out, we ourselves are in a danger zone at that point because we don't actually know. So the whole point about having this, what we call D.O.S focus, is it means you're always open-minded. You're always listening. You are always paying attention and listening for what's up with them. And then, because we have incredible experience and amazing community and great creativity, we're quite adept at coming up with strategies and tools and concepts to help address those issues. But if we're not paying attention to what they are, like closely, I was talking to a client the other day and he said, we listen hard to our clients. I was like, whoa, that is a great term. So when you're listening hard to someone's dangers and opportunities and strengths, that's a powerful way to be with your clientele. So we've talked about dangers. Now let's get into opportunities. And opportunities are, what are people excited about? This is fun to tap into. And by the way, sometimes if you're having this conversation, it's actually a structured conversation, one of our tools in Coach. And it can be very difficult to wait and actually be patient and not want to solve every single one of their dangers. We often stop at that point. It's like, oh, well, we could do this, and you could do this, and let me try this, and let's do this exercise. And here's a solution. And we never actually get to what they're excited about. But part of listening hard or being intensely curious is to go, okay, that's really interesting. If that's what you're worried about, if that's what wakes you up at 3 a.m., let's pretend those are taken care of. What are you most excited about now? What are the opportunities that really, again, may keep you up at 3 a.m., but not out of fear, but out of excitement? You're like, oh, this would be so exciting. Often they're like, oh, wow, this would be possible and this would be possible. And everything that they were afraid of losing on the danger side, it's now about that's the opportunity to gain. So same things, gain more life, more energy, more focus, better reputation, more money, more profit, better team members, more capabilities, better technology. You name it. There's a long, long list of things that we can gain when we're focused on opportunities. And knowing really what people are most excited about is key. And actually, it's where I see a lot of companies kind of fall down, is that they think they know what their clients are excited about, or because of past history or some other people, and they get a little narrow-minded. I'm very clear the world is a rapidly changing place at the moment, and I now no longer assume, because you know what assume means. It makes a blank of you and me. It's your grade 5 coming back to you. And I no longer assume that I know. I may guess and I may ask. It's like, oh, well, if I was in your position, I would be pretty excited about this. Is that true for you or not? And they may go yes, or they may say, no, Shannon, actually, I'm much more excited about that. You're like, oh, wow, interesting. Tell me more. And that is such a dynamic conversation to be having with people. I have to tell you, it's really fun to find out what people are up to. We work with a number of dentists. And one of the things that these people are just brilliant doing is having people have a wonderful smile. And if I was in that field, I'd be asking, okay, so you're talking to us because presumably you want to have, a better smile. What's the opportunity in that for you? What difference will that make to your life? And it may be something that's like, oh, well, I'm a professional presenter and I'll just be that much more expressive and that much more confident in how I put myself across. It'll look better in photos. It'll look better in person. And, instead of being hesitant about how I look when I'm smiling, I'll be just more expressive and more available and open. And to someone else, it may have a completely different reason. It's like, I have not smiled with my lips open in 25 years, and this will be a breakthrough. People will actually see my full smile, and that will make a big difference to my friends and family. It could be like that. Like, who knows? Everyone's opportunity is different, and we cannot assume that we know, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to get to know people, to find out what is really unique and personal to them. So opportunities, they're not always exactly the opposite, but just where there was a loss, there's going to be a gain, a complementary one, most likely, and it's really fun and exciting to figure that out. Now, the last one, and this is, again, people tend to skip this because once you find out what people are worried about and then you find out what they're excited about, you just want to get going. I caution people all the time, and I have a bit of a stick in the mud about it, is to not jump in and want to solve all the problems and say, okay, there's one more thing I want to find out about. And that is, what are your strengths? And these are things that you are most confident about. It's kind of fascinating. First of all, people will say, oh, well, my health is great. I have a great team and my relationship with my spouse is wonderful, or I really appreciate my children and what they're up to, or, I just really appreciate, the type of society I live in, and that's the strength. Or even just the fact that I fortunately was blessed with a great upbringing from my parents. By the way, very few people say all of those things. So if you're wondering, it's like, no, usually there's one or two, maybe three of those things. But people have a lot of strengths that they bring to the table. And the whole point here of figuring out someone's dangers, opportunities, and strengths is so that you can understand how best to create value for them. And one of the things that I have discovered, sometimes the hard way, is that people who are confident make decisions to take action. People who are not confident don't. So let me just play this out for you. If you were to find out what someone's dangers are, what they're worried about, if you were to find out what someone is excited about, in other words, their opportunities, but you did not stop to find out what they're confident about, they could be still in such a state of lack of confidence because they're focused on the issues and the problems that they would not take action. All the great suggestions, all the creativity, all the innovation that you might even invest on their behalf will go nowhere if they're not confident enough to take action. So by really reinforcing people's strengths, by their progress, even the hard lessons they've learned when situations did not turn out. I was having a great conversation with a client this morning, and I said to him, okay, well, I know the situation's not what you want it right now, but I want you to appreciate just how much progress you've made. You've got a fantastic business. Yes, you're not able to do exactly what you want in it, so you've got a future plan. But I said to him, I'm really, really clear that I want you to be in a place where you can take action. I said, and from what you've just told me, he's told me a story about very early in his life where he overcame some really challenging circumstances. I said, and you are a man of action. That is your MO. You just need to go and apply that here. He goes, you're right, I am. And then he's off and running. But I just know that all of the great strategizing that we've done in that conversation would have been for naught if he hadn't been in a place where he can feel confident to take action. So that's what reinforcing strengths does. And if you think about it, imagine being on the receiving end of this conversation. If someone says, okay, you've got these problems, you've got these opportunities, here's how I can help you, or worse, here's how I can fix things for you. There's just no energy there. And they might be right, But, they kind of ride in on their white horse as a savior, and you're the poor victim who has to be rescued. That feels not very good for more than about 2 seconds, unless that's your goal in life, which I hope it's not. But it really is one of those situations where you're an active, creative, innovative partner in your own life. You've already done 90% of it right. If they come in saying, hey, I want to help free you up to do what you do best. Let me help you get the last 10%. You're like, okay, I'm in. You don't want someone who's going to not appreciate your strengths and not appreciate what you already have going. And I see tons of sales lost this way. I see lots of partnerships and potential productive working relationships fall apart because they don't see or recognize or acknowledge other people's strengths. You may be wondering, how is this possibly of value for a company? Well, it means that every single person in the company needs to be conscious and aware, and I love this term, listening hard, for what our clients' dangers, opportunities, and strengths are. It's a huge part of our design process. We have this conversation with the coaches all the time because they're a huge part of who delivers the Strategic Coach program. And it's just vital to our mindset. And we don't only apply it front stage, we also look at it backstage. And that's one of the future upcoming values in 2 more recordings. So we not only apply it front stage, we also apply it backstage. And this is something that's actually number 6 in terms of what our values. You'll be hearing more about that. We not only look at it from our client standpoint, but also, again, from our team member standpoint. So what are his or her dangers? What are his or her opportunities? What are his or her strengths? And how can we create value for this person? What's true for the individual? What's true for the team? What's true for our company? Now, before I leave this conversation, I do want to let you know that this is different than a SWOT analysis. So a SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is often what a company will do. It's a great process, by the way, on themselves. This, for the most part, especially when you're working with your clientele, is done for them. And it's totally emotion-based. So it gets a little bit out of the head and much more into the heart. And what I know is that's where people make decisions. And when everyone in the company is focused on what your client's dangers, opportunities, and strengths are, it's kind of amazing. It's everything from when someone comes in late, in our case, to a workshop, or it could be to a client meeting, instead of looking at your watch going, you're late, and a little bit of that judgment coming in, it's like, oh my gosh, and we're so glad you're here. Just relax. Our goal is to take care of you. Let me take your coat. Can I get you a tea or coffee? How would you like that? Let's just settle in and just put you at ease and treat you as though you're an incredibly welcome guest, which you are, and let's take care of you. That's taking care of a small danger. It's being incredibly hospitable. That's an example of paying attention to someone's D.O.S. It could be, in my case, I'm very much about reinforcing people's strengths. That's a huge part of our unique ability conversation that we talked about in core value number 2. Because we're very good at helping people see the distinctions in their life, which they're living it all the time. So it's hard to get that perspective. I love this expression I heard recently. You can't read the label from inside the jar. Isn't that a brilliant expression? We help provide that outside perspective. And even just having, this is what we call the D.O.S conversation with people. The only thing that's different about that is we add in a 3-year goal question. If we were meeting here 3 years from today, looking back over those 3 years, what has to have happened for you to feel happy with your progress? And then relative to that, what are your dangers, what are your opportunities, and what are your strengths? That is a phenomenal way to get on the same page with where someone is going, where someone is at, and whether or not you can actually create value. It's a very, very powerful conversation. But I love that that is a core value for Coach, and that anyone who thinks they know better than our clients or our team, anyone who is not on board with paying attention or listening hard, does not either get hired or does not last. So I love having this as a core value. It keeps us very current, keeps us very present, also keeps us very humble. So I hope you've enjoyed this conversation about D.O.S, dangers, opportunities, and strengths, our extraordinary coach culture value number 3. And if you have any questions or comments or would like to know more, please let us know at questions@strategiccoach.com. And if you're a fan of this, please remember to subscribe on iTunes. We'd love to have you as a regular listener. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, here's to your team success. Hi, Shannon here, and thank you very much for listening. If you like what you heard today, please take a moment to rate the Team Success podcast on iTunes. And we'd love it if you'd share the podcast with anyone else who could benefit. If you're interested in learning more about the Strategic Coach program for entrepreneurs, visit us at strategiccoach.com or the Strategic Coach channel on YouTube. For free downloads and more team success strategies, visit teamsuccesshandbook.com.